Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Tabletalk, and in this episode I'm going to teach how to play Welcome to Your Perfect Home. 1 to 100 players, ages 10 and up, and roughly 25 minutes. To start the game, give everybody a player sheet with a neighborhood on it. There is a free app that you can download if you would like to use that in case you run out of sheets, or if you want to use the app for any other reason instead of the pieces of paper. You're going to shuffle up this deck of double-sided cards with numbers on one side and symbols on the other, and you're going to divide it evenly into 3 decks with the number side facing up, and you're going to flip over the top card to indicate which pair and symbols will go with which numbers. Here are 3 examples, in which case there's a 9 and the mailbox, there's a 10 and a pool, and a 5 and a park. I'll explain what those mean a little bit later. But first, you're going to also deal out these player aids evenly around the table so that everyone can see what's going on. And you're going to shuffle up the 3 city planning decks, the 1, 2s, and 3s, taking 1 from each of the decks to play with during this game. And put that where everyone can see with both the numbers at the bottom showing. And that is how you set up the game. Now, let's get into how to play. So the way this game is played is that everyone will be picking a pair with a symbol and a number. Out of the 3 choices that are available at the start of the game, once everyone has picked the pair and marked accordingly, somebody will flip a card on each deck, and then everyone will select another pair, symbol and number, and mark it accordingly, and the game will progress in that way. So let's talk about what you're going to do with these numbers and what the symbols are. So what you're going to do with the numbers is you're going to write the number in one of these houses to indicate a house number. The houses must go in an ascending order, going from 0 to 17. From left to right. There cannot be the same number with one exception, which I'll get to later. So if I did 1, 2, 5, I can't put anything lower than 5 here, right? So I have to keep going up. The highest number that can potentially be put in a house is 17, even though the highest card in the deck is 15, and I'll explain that later as well. That all has to do with how these symbols work, which we'll get onto now. So for starters, if it has a pool and a 1, for example, I would probably want to put the number 1 in a house with a pool. For example, this one. If I do, I can circle the pool and then cross out this 0 down here, indicating that at the end of the game, I will get at least 3 points. Now I can take the number and put in a house without a pool. It just means that I won't be able to scratch a number here and get points for it. So I can't put the 1 here or here. So when you take a number and pool, it has to be in the same house. So as an alternate choice, I can take this 12 in a fence. Now if I do that, I can write the 12 wherever I want. And the fence, I would allow me to draw a fence between 2 houses. Any 2 houses, and essentially it will create an real estate or an estate. So if I put a line here and I manage to put a number in each of these houses, I have an estate of 4 houses. And that's how you make estates. Going to the next set of cards and symbols is the park. And in order to do the park, if I write this number in, let's say, up here on this street, then the park will allow me to scratch off the lowest number in this set of numbers up here for points for parks. Each street has its own set of numbers for scoring, and when I take the set or the pair, the park must be scratched off on the same street I put the number. The next symbol is this construction. So the way that works is when I take the pair, this will allow me to change this number up to 2 positive or negative. So this number paired with this symbol would allow me to be a 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. Regardless of what I make it, even if I keep the 8, I will be allowed to scratch off one of these boxes under this symbol, in which case the person with the most will get 7 points, the second most will get 4, and the third most will get 1 point at the end of the game. Also, at the end of the game, whatever the lowest value for each of your street parks are, you will write in this column here for your first, second, and third street, indicating those scores. So I thus explained the parks, how pools work, because whatever the lowest value of pool that's unscratched here will be your pool points, your construction. I've also explained fences. Moving on, there is the real estate and the biz. So the way the real estate works is when I take this pair after I write the number in a house, it will allow me to scratch off the lowest value of my real estate here down at the bottom. So let's say if I took this, maybe I want to scratch off this 2, making my estates of 2 worth 3 points instead of 2. Or earlier when I described that fence, I said, oh, if I scratch this and make an estate of 4, I might want to make my 4 estates, which are groupings of houses of 4, separated by the fences, more valuable. I can only scratch off 1 box, so as the game continues, it's kind of in favor of how you plan to group your houses up to determine how many points each grouping will be worth. So last but not least is this biz symbol. So when I take the pair, once again, I will write the number wherever I see fit. And for the biz, I will then be allowed to duplicate essentially any number that is already on the board, including the 6 I just wrote. So the way that would work, let's say I put the 6 here and I put a 7 in this house. Now there's no number that can get me in between those 2 numbers. So maybe I want to use this biz 6 to write a 6 in the middle, and then I'll write a B indicating that I use this card to duplicate it. So with that, I cannot divide duplicated numbers from the biz with a fence. That is the one exception with the fences. Also, once I use an estate for those construction planning cards, which I'll explain after these symbols, I can't break those up either. And when I use a biz, I will scratch off the lowest value here. And whatever the lowest value is here, I will actually lose those points at the end of the game. So typically, I don't use biz too much, but sometimes it's helpful. The 2 more point indicators over here, I'll explain those real quick. The top one here is for creating roundabouts. So to create a roundabout, you're going to fence off a house and put a circle on it, indicating that that is not a house, it is a roundabout. And what it allows you to do is break up your street into 2 strings of numbers. As I mentioned, for a single street, you want to get from, say, 0 to 17. A roundabout will allow you to end that string of numbers on one side and start back over from 0 on the other. Once I create a roundabout, I will scratch off the lowest value here, and it is also negative points. This last one here is if towards the end of the game, at any point where I can't take any of the choices because the numbers can't be taken or written in anywhere because I didn't leave enough space for that number or any other particular reason I can't take it, I can scratch off these values as well, starting with the lowest value. And those are also minus points. Now, let's move on to the city planning cards. These are worth points based on the first person to achieve them, and then points for everybody else. So this darker number is for whoever can achieve it first. If multiple people achieve it in the same round, they both get that higher value. Once it has been achieved, you flip it over, and then everybody else in the game can get the lower value. When you complete it, you will write the point value in which you receive in these bubbles here for the 1, 2, and 3. And the way you would achieve them is essentially creating estates based on the symbology on the card. For example, this 1 card wants 6 estates of 1. So, as I mentioned earlier with the fence, I would want to create 4 houses fenced off to be by themselves. Once I complete it, I will get those points, as I mentioned, and scratch off or make a fence at the top of the house, indicating that those houses were used for that city planning card, as they cannot be used for any other card. Example, this 3 needs a 1. You can't use any ones that you use for this card for that card. And this card wants a grouping of 4 and 5, and this one wants a 1, 2 2s, and a 3. I've explained how these cards work. Now let's talk about how the game is going to end. And on the player aids, it gives you both a breakdown of what's in the deck, also how the game will end. There is one more note, and that is once someone completes one of these city planning cards, they have an opportunity to take all the decks and shuffle them up and redistribute 3 new decks. So it's a good way, in case all the ones came up and you're still waiting for one, to get those numbers kind of back in circulation. So when the game ends is when a player or multiple players fill up their entire neighborhood with numbers and or roundabouts. A player completes all 3 of the city planning cards, or a player scratches off all the possibilities in which they can't receive any number or power because they didn't leave themselves room or for whatever reason. So for any of those 3 reasons, the game will end, and then everyone will total their score, and whoever has the highest points win. And that's how you play Welcome to Your Perfect Home. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.